Hello friends, myself Praveen Patak. I welcome you all for the series of lectures on basics of industrial safety. So today we are going to discuss the safety in chemical industry as a main topic, as a whole topic. Under this safety in chemical industry, we are going to discuss or focus on the fire prevention and protection systems. Generally, fire hazard is a concern for all types of industries, but specifically when we are uh, looking for the chemical, petrochemical or petroleum industries, then fire hazard is a major concern. That is why these fire hazards and its remedies is covered under the safety in chemical industry. So we are going to discuss the different things in this chapter, that is fire, what exactly the fire is, what is meant by fire triangle, what is meant by tetrahedron, etc. But before going for the actual presentation, I would like to share this slide as a common slide for 4 lectures. This is the fire prevention and protection systems, a broad classification of fire safety system. That is, it is given for the 4 elements. One or first element is a fire safety, that is existence of fire hazard and awakening of fire consciousness of the management. It means under fire prevention and protection system, fire safety is one of the major aspect, and second aspect is fire prevention. In that, detection by detectors or elimination of hazards or source of ignition, control over combustibles in storage, handling and process, etc. are covered. Then the third element is fire protection. So if you know the concepts of fire, the concepts related to the fire, then you have to know about the fire prevention systems, detector systems, alarm systems. Then if after even prevention measures, if fire catches, then how to protect the fire. That is why third element is fire protection. So fire resistance design of building, equipments, means of escape, fixed installation, etc. Then suppression, extinguishment or control by various extinguishers. So these are the elements covered under the fire protection system. And fourth is firefighting, that is the equipments, hardware, staff, training, readiness, all the concerns are under the firefighting. So this is the common slide for 4 lecture where we are going to discuss the fire prevention and protection system, right? So for this lecture we are going to cover the concept of fire, fire triangle, fire tetrahedron, then methods of fire extinguishment, then factors contributing to fire, then classification of fire, then common causes of industrial fire, then concept of fire load, design of fire safety, and basic methods of fire prevention and control. So first point, what is meant by fire? So normally we are knowing the fire, but it is a chemical reaction in which there are 3 elements, that is heat, fuel and oxygen combines together and fire catches. After fire, it is light, heat and smoke. These 3 elements can be outcome of this fire. So to catch the fire or to for the chemical reaction of fire, the 3 elements are required, that is heat, fuel and oxygen, right? So it is the definition of simple fire. It is exothermic reaction, it is a chemical reaction, 3 elements are required, and the emission in terms of light, heat and smoke. So what is fire triangle? So that fire triangle are having 3 sides, that is nothing but the 3 elements of fire. So we already discussed in the definition of fire. So these are the 3 elements, that is heat. Heat may be something that is hot, fuel, that is something that will be burn, oxygen, the air that is all around us. So oxygen means indirectly air. So these are the 3 elements of fire, and when the 3 elements combines together, then it is called as fire triangle. So to catch the fire, these three elements are combined. So heat, oxygen and fuel are represented by red color, blue color and brown color for the fire triangle. So it becomes a fire triangle now. So the red side is the heat side, and these are the some examples in a picture form. So that may be the a fire smoke, that may be a cigarette, that may be electrical spark, that may be a matchbox, iron heating, etc. So whatever the substance which is hot or spark, that is nothing but the heat side. Then second side is the fuel. So fuel may be solid, liquid or gaseous. So this solid is paper, may be garbage, oil may be the oil which are used in the industries, that may be in terms of solvent, maybe the engine oil, etc. And gases may be the LPG, LNG, CNG, hydrogen or other types of gases which can be used in the industries. And third side is the oxygen, that is nothing but the air. So when these combine three elements, then fire can be catches. So another concept is there, that is fire tetrahedron. So tetra means 4. So fourth element is there, then it is called as fire tetrahedron, and already three elements are common, that is heat, oxygen and fuel, but now the fourth element is added, that is called as chain reactions. So after Bhopal gas tragedy, this concept become more famous. So hidden point like chain reaction may be there, that reaction may be exothermic, that reaction may increase its rate with the help of temperature, that is called as chain reactions. So because of chain reaction also fire can be catches. So these are the four elements, and that is why it is called as fire tetrahedron. Now we know the fire elements, then example, then fire tetrahedron. Then how to extinguish this fire? So basically on the basis of fire triangle, there are three methods of fire extinguishment, that is called as cooling, smothering and starvation. So what is cooling? So if the heat is removed, then it is called as cooling. If the oxygen is removed, then it is called as smothering, and if fuel is removed, then it is called as starvation. So on the basis of these sides of triangles or the element of fire, the methods of fire extinguishment is defined. So these are the simple examples. If we remove the one side of the triangle, then the triangle can't be completed, it means fire can't happen. So that is heat example, and the method is cooling. In the similar line, for the fuel case, then it is called as starvation. If we remove the fuel, then fire can't be happen because fire triangle can't be completed, that is called as starvation. And if we remove the side that is of oxygen, then it is called as smothering. So fire can't be happen due to the incompletion of the fire triangle. So for the fire, these three elements are must, and in some cases the chain reaction may be there, so that fourth element is also thoughtful for that fire. So there are some factors contributing to the fire. So normally we all are knowing the factors. Some of the factors I have already mentioned here, that is easily availability of combustible material like rubbish, solvent, paper, wood, etc. So availability of a fuel, that is one of the element of fire triangle. Then easily availability of air, oxygen or any oxidizing material. So in some of the cases oxidizing material also there, indirectly it is the oxygen. So another element of fire triangle again. Then the sources of ignition, that is third element of fire triangle, like spark, static discharge, contact of hot surfaces, friction, etc. So there are many operations in the industries which can give the ignition or a spark or the hotness from the substances. Then the continuous running machinery. So without proper lubrication and maintenance, this continuous running machinery may generate friction, may generate heat, may generate spark. Non-flame proof electrical fitting in flammable areas. So if the area is flammable, so that should be flame proof. But in case if it is not flame proof, then the chances of fire is there. So habit of smoking in flammable gases, that is one of the factor. No provision of fire detectors in fire prone areas. No provision of fire extinguishers in fire prone areas. Open handling of flammable substances. No compliance of fire safety rules. So these are the common factors for the fire. Now there are some hidden factors contributing to fire. So chemical reaction. So it is not visualized, we can't visualize this reaction, how the reaction is proceed, what is the rate of that reaction, what exactly or how much the heat is rejected from that particular reaction, or whether the reaction is exothermic or endothermic, whatever. So there are lots of characteristics of that chemical reactions. So chemical reaction is one of the hidden factor. Sudden stoppage of cooling media. So if the cooling media is required and if the sufficient amount of cooling media is not there, or due to some technical reason if the sudden stoppage of cooling media is there, then that could be catch the fire. Trapping of metal parts, nails, etc. in rollers or moving machinery giving sudden sparks. So sudden stoppage, that is trapping of metal parts or other parts, that may give a sudden spark. So spark is again the a source of heat. Non-availability of inert material on reaction of flammable substances. So in some cases inert purging or inert material should be there, like nitrogen. Nitrogen is one of the inert material. So nitrogen purging process is a common process in industry. So in some cases it is required. If it is not available, then there are chances of fire. Then sudden lightning from the sky. So lightning is the natural process, we can't control this, but we can arrange some lightning arrestor, etc. to avoid the losses or minimize the losses from the lightning. So these are the some hidden factors. Now we know what is meant by fire, what are the fire elements, what is fire triangle, what is fire tetrahedron, then common factors or hidden factors for contributing to fire. Now it is a fire classification. So there are many agencies or standards which are giving this classification. NFPA classification may be there, then OSHA may be given some other classification, US agency may be given other classification. There are many classifications, but generally this is the ABCD is the main fire classification, but in some cases ABCDE and in some cases ABCDEK. So all type of classification I am included here. That A means solid combustible substances. So that A class fire should be represented by the triangle, yellow triangle, and the alphabet is capital A. So solid combustible substances. Then B class is flammable liquids. So that should be represented by the square, yellow square, and alphabet capital B. C class fire means flammable gases. Circle, yellow circle, capital C is the alphabet. Then for metal fire, star, yellow star, and capital D. So these are the standard symbols which can represent the fire class. And then capital E, that is electrical fire or electronic fire, and capital K is fire involving cooking oils. So generally in the previous cases that K stands for kerosene, because the kerosene is the common cooking oil in the previous cases. Now it is banned. So these are the some examples for the class A, B, C, D, E, K. So for class A, the examples are wood, paper, plastic, coal, etc. For B means for the liquids, petrol, diesel, HFO, wax, paints, etc. Then for C, that is gases, LPG, hydrogen, oxygen, etc. Then for D, metal fire, for sodium, aluminium, magnesium, etc. For E, electrical fire or electronic fire, that is due to the equipments. Then for K, kerosene or some fossil fuels which are near about kerosene characteristic, having kerosene characteristics. So this is the fire classification and examples of fire classification. Now there are some common causes of industrial fire. So we already discussed that spark, hot surfaces, spontaneous ignition, hazardous chemicals and metals. These are the common causes of industrial fire. And overall causes are electricity, that may be bad housekeeping, BD cigarettes, hot surfaces, friction, excessive heat, welding cutting operation, flame and combustion, self ignition, exposure, ignition spark, mechanical spark, molten hot substances. Static electricity is one of the hidden cause. So static electricity may be due to belt drive, paper plastic reeling, human body, fluidized bed, pneumatic conveying, dust handling, liquid mixing, flow in vessel or pipe agitations. So these are the overall causes for the fire. Now what is mean by fire load? So we know that after catching the fire we have to extinguish that fire, and for fire extinguishment there are different elements or substances used for the extinguishment. That is water, that may be dry chemical powder, that may be mechanical foam, that may be halon, that may be CO2, etc. But the common fire extinguishing media is water. So we must know how much water is required to extinguish a particular fire. So for that quantity we must know the fire load concept. What exactly the fire load is? The amount of combustible material in a building per square meter of floor area. So the amount of combustible material per square meter, that is the basic fire load concept. But just knowing the amount is not sufficient for calculation of water requirement. So how much amount of heat is released in kilocalories by that fuel per square meter is another requirement. So we know the amount of combustible material. Now we must calculate the heat released. So how to calculate this heat release? So with the help of calorific value of that particular substance we can calculate the heat release. So with the help of calorific value we can calculate heat release, and on the basis of this heat release we can calculate the water requirement. So this fire load concept is useful to calculate the water requirement to quench the fire. So this is the formula, that combustibles in kg into calorific value in terms of kilocalorie per kg divided by floor area in square meters. So in this formula this kg of combustibles and this kg from the calorific value gets cancelled, and remaining is kilocalorie, that is calorific value heat per square meter. So this kilocalorie per square meter calculation is given, can be calculated, and the basic thing is with the for the water only 1 calorie heat can be absorbed by the 1 centimeter cube of water for the temperature rise of 1 degree Celsius. So how much kilocalorie calculations are there for a square meter? On the basis of this kilocalorie calculations we can calculate the centimeter cube, millimeter cube, meter cube or liters of water required to quench the fire. So this is the fire load calculations or fire load determinations. So this fire load can be classified as low fire load, moderate fire load or high fire load. So low fire load means the value, calculated value of fire load less than 1 lakh BTHU, then it is called as low fire load. BTHU means British thermal unit. So we have to convert these calories, kilocalorie, joules in terms of BTHU so that we can classify this fire load in terms of low, moderate or high. Then moderate fire load is between 1 lakh to 2 lakh British thermal unit, and for high fire load the fire load calculations is more than 2 lakh British thermal unit. So these are the fire load classification. Now one of the concept is design of a building or that particular site for fire safety. So what should be the how should be the design? So there are some examples that the building material or that paint should have good fire resistance. That is one of the major point. So fire resistance paints or fire resistance material should be used for the safe building from the fire. So there are three types of materials like non-flammable, then hardly flammable and flammable. So non-flammable means the materials which can't catch the fire easily, like metals, bricks, clay, asbestos, concrete, etc. So it requires very high temperature to catch the fire. So it is non-flammable. Hardly flammable means it requires a moderate temperature or heat to catch the fire. For example, straw brick, dry gypsum, plaster, etc. And third case is flammable, so which can catch the fire easily, that is organic origins such as wood, cardboard, etc. Means the substance which are having hydrocarbon contents. Organic means hydrocarbon contents which are made from the hydrogen and carbon, and these contents are nothing but the organic contents which are easily catch the fire. This is called as flammable substances. So depending on this classification, and you must know the fire prone areas, depending on that cases you have to apply this building materials and paints. So depending on that fire flame resistances and the capacity, that structural resistance is calculated. So how much strength and ability to withstand the action of fire for a particular time during fire. So when the fire catches, the time is an important parameter, because how much time is required to failure of that particular structure, how much time is required, or how is the capable of that building, or how much is the strength of that building to withstand the fire. So that within that time that fire tender or firefighting system should be operated, then and only we can minimize the fire risk or damage of material and persons. What is fire and flame resistances, that should be the continue. So we already discussed that time or time in hours is the major factor or parameter during the fire. Then it also depends on the size, that is depend on the size, that is of thickness or cross section, and physical properties of the building material. So what is the thickness of that building material and cross section is another property on which the strength and capability of the building can be measured or judged. So for example, if 12 centimeter thick wall can withstand for 2.5 hours and 25 centimeter thick wall can withstand for 5.5 hours. So in case of fire, this 12 centimeter thick wall can withstand only for 2.5 hours, but when 25 centimeter thick wall is there, then that can withstand 5.5 hours, near about double time. So fire retardant coatings on wood flame proofings of fabrics are useful to some extent. So there are some coatings, paints, surfactants are also there which are fireproof or flame proof. And for the detailing of that material coatings paints, some IS standards are given, so you can refer these IS standards for the detailing purpose. So fire resistance barrier can be used for this purpose. So already discussed that thickness should be more where the fire hazards probability is more. So for the fire resistance material or wall, minimum 2.5 hours time should be there. It means minimum 12 centimeter thickness should be there. And for doors and gates, it should be 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours minimum. So fire check zones, that is strips of non-flammable materials, should provided to divide floors and walls into sections more than 6 meter wide. So venti panes or smoke escape windows, exits and escape ways should be provided, because we know that after catching the fire, whatever the fatalities or the deaths are occurred, The major reason is due to the smoke, that is suffocation. So due to the oxygen deficiency and more carbon contents in the air, that is why the death or fatality chances are more. So these venti fans or smoke escape windows and exit and escape ways should be provided to get the fresh air, and so that the chances of fatalities are less. So lightning protection is another parameter, because in the lightning protection or lightning arresters, normally on the top of the building that lightning arresters are provided, because the lightning voltage is near about 1,50,000 kilovolt and 200 kilo ampere. So we can't control this much voltage and this much amperes, so we can provide only the lightning arrestor systems on the top of the building. Then fire safety should be well thought from siting and location, because before starting the industry we have to finalize or get approval or license from for the site location, and for this site location or before this finalizing the site location, if we thought about the fire safety, then it is a very well move for the fire safety concern. So what exactly the site should be, what is the location, then plant layout, the ideal plant layout should be followed, design and construction of this building or the equipment structures etc, then what should be the operations in the plant must be carried out uh, with less fire hazards, then how to maintain the plant with the help of different types of maintenance, and again we must thought of that fire hazards again for this plant maintenance. So it is very good move to thought about fire safety before finalizing the site location. Then general control measures for the fire is to detect the fire at the earliest, to confine the fire, and to extinguish the fire at the earliest. These are the simple general guidelines for controlling the fire. Some 6 fundamental principles are given for fire prevention and reduction. So fire prevention engineering is one of the principle. Then regular periodic inspection, prevent the start of fire, early detection and extinguishment, limiting the spread and damage due to fire and fire control, prevention of personal injuries from fire and panic, including prompt and orderly evacuation of person. So wherever whatever principle is feasible and affordable, that should be absorbed by the particular industry. So fire prevention engineering is one of the very good principle, but in some cases, especially for the small scale industries, it is not affordable. So that is why we can adopt other principles to prevent the fire or to reduce the fire hazard. Fundamental methods already discussed, that smothering, starvation, cooling and breaking the chain. So on the basis of fire chemistry or fire triangle or fire tetrahedron, we can list out these methods of fire control. Then what are the fire prevention activities? Fire inspection, hot work permits, fire brigade and drills, fire retardant treatments, communication, protecting nearby buildings, assessment of fire risk. So these are the some activities for the fire prevention. Thank you.